Welcome to Her Own Boss, the podcast created by graduates to help you find your inner entrepreneur. In this episode, our expert mentor, Niamh Crawford-Walker, shares with us some exercises that help you find your career purpose and identify the untapped skills developed through school, uni, work experience, and beyond. Niamh is the founder of #Goals, a career coaching company on a mission to empower young women starting out in their career. She's a qualified career coach with over 5 years' experience and the author of The Confident Creative, a digital workbook designed to help you identify your dream career and unlock your true potential. Well, hi, Niamh.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
Good, yeah.
And before we get started, I just wanted to quickly say congratulations, because I saw on Instagram yesterday that you've just launched your new brand and business #Goals.
Yeah.
So congratulations. How does it feel?
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like a bit of a it feels like a weight lifted, to be honest. Got lots of content plans and I'm gonna hopefully roll out my workshop schedule in the next few weeks. So very excited that it's out there in the open in its own little space.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's so cool, and it's perfect to kind of have you on the episode today as a qualified career coach. And I know that you've written kind of digital workbooks before for young women in particular to help identify their career goals and skill sets. And I recently spoke to 3 women who did work on side hustles and projects during uni, even though had no relation to their degree, but it was just something that they were really passionate about. So I just wanted to get you on here and kind of help us figure out how, as young people, we can identify what our purpose and our passions are.
I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was figuring out and understanding what your kind of career purpose or your career mission is. And I think that, I believe that whenever you tick off that part and you get that part right, figuring out your purpose kind of holds like the key to the kingdom for the rest of the decisions. It makes the rest of your decisions in terms of your career so much easier. Really simply, looking at your purpose and understanding what your purpose is just kind of looking at your why, and it's why you do what you do or what you want to do and connects you to your mission. What I would say is that there is a difference between your purpose and your passions. So your passions are kind of more things that you love. So that might be like running or dancing or writing or playing an instrument. And they're all things that obviously bring you joy and that do contribute to give you a sense of meaning and things like that. But your passions are things that will change throughout the course of your life, which means that they will never outweigh the purpose side of things. So that's kind of an overview of finding your purpose in terms of why it matters. I think when you're kind of cultivating confidence and building your career in the early stages, especially as a young woman, the biggest source of empowerment can be getting clear on what you actually stand for and honoring where those boundaries lie. So that's the same within, your personal life, your day-to-day life, and your professional life as well. I work with a lot of creatives and things. So I think as a creative, especially, understanding your why boosts that process of figuring out the things that you can be paid for. And I think when your why is clear to you, you then know the kind of people you want to work with, the kind of brands you want to be associated with, the companies you might want to work for, and all those things that make up your ideal client or ideal employer. I feel like the purpose part of things is this foundation for starting out in your career, because for long-term and sustainable success and happiness, the purpose then fuels persistence and what keeps you going, and it helps you to push through that fear of failure and the obstacles and the setbacks that get in your way.
I think that line, your purpose fuels persistence, I really like that little tidbit of knowledge.
Yeah, because it's when you know what you stand for, you know what's important to you in the grand scale of things, you can kind of detach the personal and the ego in terms of dealing with rejection or, knowing what kind of jobs to go for because you know what you're looking for. I guess what seems the more intimidating part is actually figuring out what that is. So I guess to break it down and figuring out your purpose, there's 3 different elements that I would look at with people. So there's your intrinsic strengths. So most of our most powerful strengths are the ones that we take for granted and the ones that we find most difficult to actually identify because they come so easily to us. And because they come so easily to us, we assume that they come as easy to other people. and undervalue them. So they could be there. A lot of the time, there'll be things that people tell you that you're good at. So, they might be people at school or work or in uni or things like that. And like you're the person they come to when they have a problem and they need someone to listen. Or maybe you really understand like communicating stories, or you understand strategy really well. So people come to you when they need a clear plan or they need a solution and things like that. So in that sense, it's thinking about where you've received compliments or positive feedback, or where you've taken on leadership roles in the past. I think the thing to remember with that is that leadership roles don't have to be this really like official, happened in a work setting type thing. Then you got to look at the things that you're actually interested in. So the work that you could spend all day doing and not get bored and just have this endless inspiration. And at the end of it, come out with work that you're not only proud of, but that is actually pretty decent, high quality. And then lastly is looking at what can you contribute. So this kind of ties together the three elements. So here you're looking at how the strengths you've identified, looking at your intrinsic strengths, combined with those tasks that energize you, and determining how you can contribute this strength to an overall purpose. So kind of looking at all of these questions is really important for helping you figure out your purpose. And because at the end of the day, you don't want to just be like this high flying successful person in your career. You want to enjoy it too. You want to be excited. You want to feel that sense of fulfillment and that sense of purpose. If you want to just go the journaling route, some of the questions to just ask yourself on that is, what are you great at? What energizes you? What tasks make you lose track of time? What do other people come to you for help or advice on? Looking at things that you research in your spare time or read about in your spare time, or podcasts you listen to and things like that. And one thing that's a real can of worms for people when you're really stuck is asking yourself what really winds you up about the world. Like what really annoys you? Like, is there something that you just think that really fires me up and annoys me, and that needs fixed?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's some really, really helpful advice there. I think when you're like leaving school or leaving uni, there is so much pressure from family and friends, and everyone's asking you, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do next? That we never really take the time to sit down and really think about what we want to do rather than what we need to do to kind of tick a box. So wish I had known that at uni. I was literally taking notes while you were speaking. But one of the other things that I think young people face at uni, and I definitely did, and I hear my friends and even my sister who's in university now say, is that they feel like they don't have any of the skills or the experience to do what they want to do. But, I don't think that's possible because everyone has to start somewhere. So how can we look at our experiences and identify some kind of untapped skills that we maybe don't know about?
Yeah, I think that can be one of the most frustrating things whenever you're starting to look for jobs or you're starting to look for internships, is looking at the experience listed and being like, oh, I actually don't have any of these things.
Yeah.
The reality is you definitely do. And isn't there, I've totally forgotten it, but there's a stat about when women look at a job description versus when men look at a job description, and how a lot of women, if they don't tick all the boxes, don't end up applying. But I think the important thing is, like, it's kind of thinking outside the box with your skill set and the experience and the things that you've done, and remembering that your skill set is a lot more than just what you've developed in like a professional capacity. So like in internships and work experience and full-time jobs and part-time jobs and things like that. Like there's a lot more that makes up your skill set. So one thing that I find really helpful, both in terms of that I've done myself and that I do with some of my coaching clients and in my workshops and things, is a career map. The purpose is to reflect on those different projects that you've done and different accomplishments and job roles throughout your life so far. And as we were saying, at those early stages, when you're in your early 20s or you just finished school, we don't tend to have a mad amount of official work experience. So it's tying in, like, maybe you had a Saturday job growing up, maybe there were different projects you took part in school that you loved or in university that you loved, and maybe you have a side hustle. It's looking at all of those, as well as the internships, as well as the part-time jobs, as well as the full-time. So basically all you do is get a sheet of paper, the bigger the better. And I would say to get 2 different colored pens, but it's basically just drawing out like a timeline. and starting at, your very first project or work experience that you have and working your way through each one. So as you list each one, okay, this is where the different colored pens are. If you have one pen for the positive experiences or things that you really enjoyed, and then the other pen for things that, maybe weren't such a great experience, felt a bit meh about, or you might feel very strongly against them as well. So working through each of those different experiences, think about things like what made you pursue that accomplishment or pursue that job? What skills and expertise did you enjoy using while doing it? What does this accomplishment reflect about your motivating values? So that might bring up things like independence. Maybe you wanted to earn your own money. Maybe you really enjoyed the company culture. And then looking at what was the focus or the subject matter interest area of this experience. So if you do that for each one, keep working your way up to the most recent. And then at the end, you can look back over it. And because you've used the two different colors, you'll be able to start noticing some recurring themes. So you might notice that a lot of your projects have been in the same subject area, or a lot of them are tied to things like independence or company culture, or a freedom and creative independence and able to work on your own and things like that. Then you'll also find recurring themes in the things you didn't enjoy. And again, that will help you looking at the things that you're not looking for going forward, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that then at the end, reflecting back on all of that and actually thinking about the different things you enjoyed helps you then kind of like almost as like a wee internal sat nav that makes it easier to target different career opportunities going forward and guide those next steps. I did mine most recently about a year ago. I did it, and I actually find it's really helpful to go back to as well. So every time you're kind of making a decision, or you've got a new opportunity, or you're feeling a bit lost or confused about the next steps, it's really helpful to keep that stashed away somewhere to help guide those next steps.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think as well, making it like a timeline and going back almost even when you were in school is really helpful, because you might think you have no experience, but you will have, played an instrument or done a sport or volunteered or been involved at your community center or your church or whatever it is. And those are still experiences that get something out of, as well as putting yourself into it. And then the other thing I love about that exercise is writing down things that you don't like, because people always ask you what you like, but they don't really point out that it's as helpful to know what you don't want to do again.
Exactly. It's like the process of elimination. And the other thing as well is, usually we only think about our experience and this kind of timeline things we've done and how we can tie it into job descriptions when we're looking for jobs. And then because there's that like tunnel vision, you forget about the different things. So it's really helpful to do the career mapping exercise at a time when you're not applying for a specific job, so that you can keep a bit more of an open mind. And also by keeping it, you then end up with like this mountain of information that you may have otherwise overlooked, that you can then add into your LinkedIn or your CV or your cover letter. And you've explored them yourself, so you know what they taught you and you know the value of what that meant to you, and the kind of more, I guess, soft skills part of it as well.
Yeah, such a good point, because you're always told to, update your CV or your job application to be job specific. But if you don't have all that information written out, it just takes ages. So yeah, it's like a perfect collection of everything that you are and everything you've done to kind of draw from.
Yeah.
Well, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I think it would be great to have you back in future to kind of help with some of these career progression questions, but also definitely have you on to talk about how your company is going in the future as well.
I would love to. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I hope you found this minisode helpful and feel ready to take the next step in finding your inner entrepreneur. You can find out more about us by searching @Her Own Boss Podcast on Instagram, and make sure to leave us a review and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.